Hi, I'm Lucy Johnston, and this is GB News Originals. Please don't forget to press the subscribe button below. Now, Britain could face blackouts lasting up to 2 weeks because the government has failed to account for the country's unpredictable weather in its drive towards net zero, energy experts have warned. A major study undertaken by 2 engineering academics has found that the UK energy system is vulnerable to long periods of calm weather when wind turbines generate almost no power. Wind energy is at the heart of the government's green plans, and they're pledging that 95% of the UK's electricity will come from clean sources, that's solar and wind, by 2030. But these researchers say this strategy is nonsensical, and it's based on overly optimistic predictions that underestimate the so-called wind lulls that we have. And these periods can last up to 14 days when there's little or no wind across the country. And that could throw us into blackouts. Take a look at this clip from breakfast this morning.
Now, the nation could soon be facing blackouts lasting up to 2 weeks as energy experts warn the UK's energy system is vulnerable.
It's a major study by 2 leading engineering academics, and it's found that long periods of calm weather means, guess what? Wind turbines won't generate any power.
Well, experts say the government has failed to account for the country's unpredictable weather in its net zero drive.
Let's talk to our science editor, Lucy Johnson. Morning, Lucy. I mean, it seems like a statement of the blooming obvious.
Well, the government sort of denies it, but what these academics have done is they've compared real-world data with the official data, and they've found that it hasn't accounted for these long periods of calm. And what they say is that this will or could lead to long blackouts. They're concerned because the government or the government's got a drive to making all our energy come from clean sources, 95% of it by 2030. And we've only got about 7.5 days of gas reserves if our energy falls short. And in contrast, places like France and Germany have months of backup. And what they say is that because we have these periods of calm, which they've seen in the data, this could lead to these blackouts. Actually, in South Africa, they have a similar thing. They call it load shedding, and the lights go off. It could affect if hospitals and critical infrastructure rely on renewable energies, it could even affect those. So it is a real concern. And they're saying that this is what they call a nonsensical policy, and it is uneconomic. And they're calling for more gas reserves and a smoother and sort of slower transition to renewable sources.
Talking to one of the academics who carried out this study earlier on in the programme, he was essentially saying we're just going too hard and fast towards net zero without thinking about the potential consequences.
I think that's right. I mean, if we think about it, it's a rather experimental policy. We don't know what will happen. The government's done its own modelling, or it's the people that run the energy system for the government's done modelling, but that's a model. So it is, and at the moment, we don't have the technology to store wind power or to store solar power.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
The batteries aren't there to do that. So when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, we could be in trouble. They've also looked at the policy itself and the fact that the government wants to almost treble the number of wind turbines we have in an effort perhaps to increase our energy security. But what they say is that we can't use all of that wind power. It's not storable. So therefore we're wasting money, and they've estimated that we're wasting about £100 billion in trying to increase the number of wind turbines, which simply can't be used. So they'll be potentially sitting idle or unnecessary. And this investment is not economic. We should be optimizing other sources so that we have this security. So it's a real worry.
OK. Lucy, thank you very much indeed. As Lucy said, the government's sort of denied all this. The Department for Energy Security and Net Zero has said the claims are categorically false. The National Energy System Operator does factor in the impact of wind lulls in its research. Our robust electricity system is already set up to cope with such scenarios. As we transition to net zero, we'll continue working with our partners to ensure the safe, secure and resilient supply of electricity across Great Britain. I don't know what's happening too, because they were talking about these sort of small-scale nuclear reactors that could be sort of dotted around the country a lot more.
And the French are really reliant on nuclear, aren't they? And it works well for them.
Forward, yeah.
Now watch Professor David Wwin, who was the academic who carried out the study, who said that he'd looked at the real-world data in depth and had found, using historical weather records, these wind lulls were regular and predictable. Take a look.
Well, we're joined now by author of the study, engineering academic Professor David Wwin. Good to see you this morning, Professor. And you were actually one of the experts carrying out this study. What did you find?
Morning, Ellie, and morning to your listeners. What we discovered was this is the latest in a series of publications that has looked at the question of what is the maximum level, or what is the economic and technical level that can be tolerated within a national electricity system in terms of wind and solar. And so what we discovered was that based on the 2030 Clean Power Action Plan, that there are three major concerns with that. And the first one is that the level of wind generation that has been targeted in that action plan is nonsensical. It's too quick and too much and too far and too quickly. And so the study really concludes that if this is going to be the target that UK would like to install in respect of wind power, it's going to result in significant system instability. And in your introduction, you referred to this likelihood of periods in which there will be rolling blackouts within the country as a consequence of the wind fleet unable to generate the amount of energy that would be required within the country.
How likely do you think it is that we could see blackouts, and how soon do you think that could potentially happen as we push towards renewable energy?
I mean, the answer to that question, of course, is weather dependent, and no, one would be foolish to predict the weather. But historically, there have been periods historically there have been periods in the UK when there have been significant wind lulls. So there would be periods of up to 2 weeks in which there's very little wind recorded over the UK, over the whole of the British Isles, and that would mean that the system itself, which at that point, based on the design parameters of the Clean Power 2030, the system would be lacking approximately 20 gigawatts of power, which is about 2/3 of the power that's necessary to keep the system up and running, would be not available from wind. And so the question you asked is how likely is this to happen? Well, it's likely to happen over a long period, in the sense that there would be these interludes, if you like, these unpredictable weather patterns that could result in long periods of limited wind power availability.
OK, Professor, thank you for your time this morning.
So unlike other countries such as France and Germany, the UK has only 7.5 days of gas reserves. So if there is a blackout, we don't have a lot of reserves in place to help us. Critical infrastructure such as hospitals or aircraft air traffic control could be affected if they're relying on renewable energies. So it's really important that the government takes notice of this study and of this real world data. Now, of course, the government has done its own modelling. It hasn't shown its workings out to these professors, and it categorically denies these claims. So let us know what you think in the comments below, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.